The night was warm and perfect, the kind of summer night you dream about all year long. The air was thick with the promise of adventure, the kind that only happens when the days are long and the stars are bright. It felt like anything was possible, like we were on the cusp of something amazing. My friends splashed in the glowing blue pool, their laughter echoing across the backyard, bouncing off the fences and disappearing into the darkness beyond. The water shimmered under the colored lights, creating an ethereal glow that made us feel like we were swimming in a different world. Each splash was a burst of joy, a moment of pure, unadulterated fun. Music played from a small speaker, a carefully curated playlist designed to enhance the mood, making everything feel cinematic, like we were living in our own movie. The bass thumped softly, a gentle rhythm that pulsed through the air, adding to the feeling of carefree abandon. It was the soundtrack to our summer, the melody that would forever be etched in our memories. My parents were away, leaving me in charge for the first time, a responsibility that felt both exciting and slightly terrifying. It was a test of my maturity, a chance to prove that I could handle things on my own. But mostly, it was a symbol of freedom, a chance to create our own rules for the night. The moon watched over us, big and white in the sky, a silent guardian of our summer revelry. Its light cast long, dancing shadows across the lawn, adding an element of mystery to the scene. It felt like a benevolent presence, a celestial witness to our youthful joy. We played games, silly and competitive, each one designed to elicit maximum laughter and create lasting memories. Marco Polo, chicken fights, races across the pitch, each game a testament to our boundless energy and youthful exuberance. Floated on snacks, gazing up at the stars, lost in the vastness of the universe. Cool water cradled us, a soothing embrace that washed away all our worries and anxiety. We pointed out constellations, made up stories about the planets, dreamed of futures filled with endless possibilities, and talked about everything we see and nothing, sharing secrets, dreams, fears, and hushed wonder. We dissected the latest gossip, debated the merits of our favorite bands, and pondered the mysteries of love and life. The smell of chlorine and damp towels filled the air, pure summer, an olfactory snapshot of carefree days and endless nights. It was the scent of freedom, the aroma of youth, a fragrance that would forever be associated with this perfect moment in time. We ate chips, drank soda, fueled by junk food and youthful energy, our appetites insatiable. Each bite was a burst of flavor, a small indulgence that added to the overall feeling of contentment, and felt like the only people in the world cocooned in our own little bubble of friendship and summer magic. The rest of the world faded away, leaving only us in the shimmering pool under the watchful eye of the moon. As the night wore on, the energy faded, replaced by a comfortable weariness, but no one wanted to leave, clinging to the last vestiges of summer magic. We knew that the night was coming to an end, but we desperately wanted to hold on to the feeling, to prolong the moment for as long as possible. We sat quietly, soaking in the last moments, the silence punctuated only by the gentle lapping of the water and the distant chirping of crickets. It was a peaceful stillness, a moment of quiet reflection before the inevitable return to reality. I looked at my friends, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the pool lights, and I thought, this is what happiness feels like, this is what it means to be alive. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a feeling that I knew I would cherish forever. I had no idea how quickly that feeling would disappear, how fragile happiness can be, how easily it can be shattered by the harsh realities of life. I was blissfully unaware of the darkness that was lurking just around the corner, the storm that was about to break. Something was waiting for the party to end, lurking in the shadows, patiently biding its time, ready to disrupt our perfect summer night and change everything forever. A sense of unease began to creep in, a subtle premonition that something was about to go terribly wrong. The night had been a whirlwind of laughter, music, and shared secrets, but as all good things do, it was drawing to a close. The hands of time relentlessly marched forward, pushing us closer to the inevitable end of our little gathering. It was almost midnight. The air was thick with the bittersweet feeling of a perfect evening fading away. When Maya checked her phone, the bright screen illuminated her face, casting a soft glow in the dim light of the backyard. Her eyes scanned the notification, a subtle shift in her expression signaling the message's importance. "It's late," she said, her voice carrying a hint of reluctance, a shared understanding passing between us. And just like that, the night began to end. The unspoken agreement hung in the air, a gentle nudge towards the reality of responsibilities and early mornings. My friends packed up, the energy of the party slowly dissipating as they gathered their belongings. The vibrant atmosphere that had filled the backyard just moments ago began to thin, replaced by a sense of quiet anticipation. Laughter, which had been the soundtrack of the evening, was replaced by the rustle of bags and zippers. The sounds echoed in the stillness of the night, each zip and buckle a punctuation mark on the end of our time together. It was a symphony of departure, a subtle reminder that even the best moments must eventually come to a close. I walked them to the gate, the porch light casting long shadows as we exchanged goodbyes under its warm glow. Each farewell was a little piece of the night being packed away, a promise to relive the memories we had made. I watched until the last car disappeared into the darkness, its taillights fading into the distance like embers of a dying fire. A wave of melancholy washed over me as I realized the night was truly over, the echoes of laughter and conversation now just memories. Silence fell, heavy and complete, blanketing the backyard like a thick fog. It was a silence that amplified the absence of my friends, a stark contrast to the lively energy that had filled the space just moments before. The pool glowed eerily, its surface shimmering under the moonlight, the inflatable flamingo drifting alone like a solitary sentinel. The water seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light, casting strange shadows that danced across the patio. The empty chairs looked haunted by the people who'd just left, their vacant forms seeming to whisper stories of the night's adventures. Each chair held an echo of laughter, a ghost of a conversation, a lingering trace of the friendships that had gathered there. A chill ran down my spine even though the air was warm, a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was a feeling of unease, a sense that something was not quite right in the stillness of the night. I told myself it was just the quiet after a party, the sudden absence of noise and activity playing tricks on my mind. It was a logical explanation, a way to dismiss the creeping feeling of discomfort that was beginning to take hold. I tried to hum a song, a familiar melody to break the silence, but the tune died in my throat, choked by a sudden wave of apprehension. The sound wouldn't come, as if something was preventing me from filling the void. The feeling of being watched crept in, prickling the back of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. It was an unsettling sensation, the distinct impression that I was not alone in the darkness. I glanced over my shoulder, nothing but the empty yard, the shadows stretching long and distorted under the moonlight. My eyes scanned every corner, searching for any sign of movement, any indication that my unease was justified. And glowing pool. The water continued to shimmer, its surface undisturbed, reflecting the eerie light back into the night. It was a beautiful sight. Yet it did nothing to quell the growing sense of dread. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure, and headed inside, seeking the safety and comfort of my home. The door seemed to beckon, promising refuge from the unsettling atmosphere of the backyard. I was alone, or so I thought. The silence of the house was even more profound than the silence of the yard, amplifying the feeling of isolation. I locked the sliding glass door behind me. The house felt huge and unfamiliar, shadows stretching across the walls. Every creak seemed louder, every shadow deeper. My wet footprints trailed behind me as I hurried to my room. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, like eyes in every corner. I tried to shake it off, just my imagination, I told myself. But the air felt heavy, charged with something unseen. I shivered, wrapping my arms around myself. The silence was suffocating, broken only by my heartbeat. I reached for the lamp, hoping light would chase away the fear, but then I froze. Through the curtains I saw a flicker, a dark shape moving outside. There was no wind, no reason for movement. My breath caught. Something was out there, watching. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drum against my ribs. I stood frozen, every nerve ending screaming. The curtains on the glass door seemed to ripple, disturbed by something unseen. A primal fear gripped me, a cold wave washing over my senses. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something malevolent lurked just beyond the veil of the night. The silence of the suburban night was broken only by the frantic rhythm of my own heartbeat. I desperately tried to rationalize what I was seeing, to find a logical explanation for the growing dread. I told myself it was just an animal, a trick of the light, a figment of my overactive imagination fueled by late-night anxieties. Maybe it was just the neighbor's cat, or a raccoon scavenging for food, anything but what my gut was telling me. But even as I tried to convince myself, a chilling certainty settled in my bones. But the shape was tall and moved wrong. It wasn't the lumbering gait of a bear, or the skittering movements of a rodent. This was something else entirely. The shadow stretched unnaturally, its limbs contorting in ways that defied human anatomy. It glided rather than walked, a silent spectral presence that seemed to warp the very air around it. I backed away slowly, each step deliberate and measured, not daring to turn my back on the unseen entity. My eyes remained glued to the curtained glass, tracking the movement of the shadow as it danced just beyond my perception. The urge to flee was overwhelming, but I knew that running blindly would only make me more vulnerable. I had to remain calm, to assess the situation, even as terror threatened to consume me. I repeated, "I'm safe, the door is locked," a mantra whispered under my breath, a desperate attempt to cling to reality. But dread crept in, an insidious tendril wrapping around my heart, squeezing the air from my lungs. The flimsy lock on the glass door suddenly seemed woefully inadequate, a mere suggestion of security against the unknown force that pressed against it. The shadow felt unnatural, wrong, a violation of the natural order. I needed to get away from the windows, somewhere deep inside the house, away from its prying eyes. The glass felt like a thin membrane, offering no real protection from whatever lurked outside. I had to find sanctuary, a place where I could gather my thoughts and formulate a plan. The hallway was dark, the shadows clinging to the walls like grasping hands, but it felt safer than the exposed living room. I moved quietly, each footfall muffled by the carpet, holding my breath as if to avoid attracting unwanted attention. The air was thick with anticipation, charged with an unseen energy that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. At the hallway entrance I glanced back, a foolish act of defiance against my better judgment. The shadow was there, right in front of the glass door, as if it had anticipated my movement. A tall, featureless silhouette, black against the ethereal blue glow of the pool light, a stark and terrifying contrast. It tilted its head at an impossible angle, a grotesque parody of human curiosity. My blood ran cold, turning to ice in my veins. It knew I was there. I could feel its gaze boring into me, even through the glass and the curtains. It was looking for me, hunting me, and I was trapped in its game. I slipped deeper into the house, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The nightmare had begun, and I had no idea how to escape it. I fled into the pitch-black hallway, pressing against the wall. The darkness felt like a shield, but terror pressed in. Then I heard it, slow, deliberate footsteps crunching on the gravel outside. My friends were gone. No one should be here. The footsteps stopped at the front door. Silence. Then a soft, dry whispering, like dead leaves. My heart hammered as I realized the sound was coming from the door. Then, a soft click, the lock turning. I had checked that lock. It was impossible. The door was unlocked. The thing was coming inside. I was trapped. Terror froze me in place. I couldn't scream or move. I could only listen as the presence entered my home. The house was no longer mine. I was not alone. I snapped out of my paralysis. I needed to hide or fight. The kitchen had knives. I crept there, silent and desperate. The front door creaked open. It was inside. I pressed against the cabinets, the microwave clock casting a faint green glow. Everything looked normal, but the air was charged with fear. I reached for the knife block, empty. Every slot, empty. My stomach dropped, the knives were gone, someone had taken them. My friends wouldn't do this. That meant only one thing. The thing in my house had taken them. It was smart. It had planned this. I was defenseless. The realization hit me like a wave. I backed away, searching for any escape. The house felt smaller, the shadows deeper. I was being hunted. I had to move. I peered into the hallway, desperate to escape. The stairs were my only hope, but then I saw it, blocking the way. A tall, faceless figure, pure blackness, absorbing all light. It stood perfectly still, head tilted at that impossible angle. No eyes, no features, but I felt its gaze, cold and empty. I froze, unable to move or breathe. We stood in silence, a standoff in the dark. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. Just a void, a nightmare made real. My mind screamed for escape. I couldn't go forward. I couldn't go back. I was trapped between the thing and the shadows. The house was no longer safe. I had to run. Terror broke the spell. I ran. I crashed through the living room, fumbling with the sliding door. Behind me, a dragging scrape. The thing was coming. I burst into the night, the humid air a shock. I sprinted across the patio, heading for the glowing pool. No plan, just escape. Maybe I could climb the fence, hide in the bushes. Anything to get away. I reached the pool, gasping for breath. I glanced back. The door gaped open, darkness inside. I couldn't see the figure, but I felt its presence. I crouched by the pool, trying to disappear. My heart pounded, the world spinning. I wanted my parents, the sun, anything but this nightmare. But I knew it wasn't over. The real horror was just beginning. I stared into the pool's surface, my reflection pale and terrified. The water was a perfect mirror until my reflection flickered. For a moment, the face wasn't mine. A dark, featureless oval stared back. I blinked, but my own face returned, wide-eyed and scared. Stress, I told myself, just stress. I leaned closer, gripping the pool's edge. My reflection smiled. A slow, unnatural grin I didn't make. Its head tilted just like the figures. My body was still, but my reflection moved on its own. I scrambled back, a scream tearing from my throat. It wasn't just in the house, it was here with me. Or maybe, inside me. The yard was silent, the house dark, but I knew the truth. The shadow was part of this place now. I would never be alone in this house again.